Okay, tomorrow's quiz. Tomorrow's quiz is going to have 10 problems. 2 of them we've dedicated 2 entire days to, Tuesday and Wednesday. And they're going to be just like these. 2 of your problems are going to be just like the ones we did on the board. The other 8 we're going to go over today, but they're going to be much smaller and simpler problems. These are the hardest ones. We're going to go ahead and talk about the... Remind me at the end of the lesson, and I'll talk to you about how it's going to be broken down. It'll make more sense after we've learned it. If I say it before we've learned it, it won't make any sense. Okay, all of these functions, all quadratics, they either form a U or an N. All of them do. They either are just an upwards curve or a downwards curve. And what we've been solving for all this time are where those curves hit the axis, when you graph them. So, like, for instance, if this was a graph, what we've been solving for are like that point and that point, where they cross the x-axis. That's what these numbers represent when you find them. Now, just looking at these 2 things, which one do you think represents the upwards curve? Which of these 2 functions do you think represents the upwards curve?
The one with the x squared.
Yeah, why do you think that?
Because it's positive x squared.
That's right. It's that simple. Positive x squared, if your squared is positive, it's going to go upward. If your squared is negative, it's going to go downward. That's a huge hint tomorrow. 4 of your 10 test questions tomorrow are just going to be like, which one of these graphs is your function? And it's going to give you 4 graphs. If you just look and see if it's positive or negative, that right there will tell you how to get rid of some of the answers. If you're doing this one, and it has an upwards U, well, it can't be that one, because ours should be going downward.
So if it's negative, it'll be facing down.
Exactly. Exactly.
But that's positive and it's facing down. The negative facing up.
The whole point of the DOM was say which one goes with which. This goes with this one, that one goes with the top one.
Is that all you do?
Yeah. Just to tell me where it's facing. That's called end behavior. If you look on your worksheet, I believe part B of the first 4 problems is what is the end behavior. You could probably do part B for all 4 of those in 4 seconds right now. In fact, I'll challenge you to do that. Go through 1 through 4 and be like, hey, that's going to go up, down, up, down. Well, actually, I take that back. Just use numbers 1 and 2 right now. Just look at 1 and 2 and say, are those going to go up or are those going to go down?
Do we say it or make the...
Or just write it on your paper. What?
Do we make that?
You can just draw like a little bitty up or down U. Yeah, that would be the easiest way to do it. Number 1, you should have, because it was the DOM, going down. Number 2, what do you think?
Down.
That's right, because it's negative 4b squared. Now numbers 3 and 4, you can't jump to that yet. Because like we've been talking about this week, what's the first step on all these problems?
Get all the numbers to one side.
That's right, just like Ashley did over there. You have to get all the stuff to one side. So for those, you're going to have to move everything over before you do that. In fact, well, we'll come back to that in a second. Now, we need to talk about the other steps to those problems. I need everybody to write in a D step. A D underneath A, B, and C right there. Okay. I need D. You need to put D, y-intercept. You're going to add that step. It's such a quick step, you're not even going to mind doing it. It's even faster than the end behavior. Almost as fast. D, what is the y-intercept? You ready for this? This is going to be awesome. I'm about to tell you the y-intercepts to all these problems we just did, like that. When Ashley simplified this and moved everything over, this was the equation she got. What is the only number here without an x on it?
1.
That's the y-intercept.
For every one of them is 1.
No, it's the number without the variable.
So number 1 is 3 and number 2.
How do you? So this one, once you've solved it to 0, what's the y-intercept? 4. This one, well, there's no function. Oh yeah, once you set it to 0, what's the y-intercept?
Where's it at?
Negative 45. Negative 45. That's right. Y-intercept is just the number at the end. Now, tomorrow...
It's 3. On that.
That's right. That's right. Tomorrow, you're going to have problems like this, and you're going to jump to the gun. Some people are like, oh, it's 6. You've got to put everything together first before you do that. In fact, there may even be a problem. Before I tell you this, let me see if there is.
Number 2 don't have one.
No, there's not, so I'm not even going to say it. What? What'd you say?
Number 2 don't have one.
Number 2,
It's like negative 2b
You're right.
plus 4b.
you wouldn't say it didn't have one, you would just say it's 0. That is an excellent observation. The y-intercept of number 2, this is a homework problem, you might as well write it down. The y-intercept of number 2, part D of number 2 is 0. It doesn't have one. Now, I need to show you how to do the discriminant and the vertex. Those are the only two parts of those problems we haven't done yet. But if you can do quadratic formula, then finding the vertex and discriminant are really, really quick. 1 second. I forgot what time we go to lunch.
It's 19, ain't it?
I think you probably know, don't you?
Yeah. Because we go on 58 and then we go on 19 on the other day.
We're going 18.
I think it's actually 15. Maybe.
Okay. So, here we go. You're going to need to write these two formulas down. I'll provide them tomorrow, but I'm not going to tell you what these formulas are tomorrow, so you have to know what they are. First off, step A asks for the discriminant. Well, if you know the quadratic formula, you know the discriminant. It's just the part underneath the radical. The discriminant is just that part, b squared minus 4ac. That's the only part you need when I ask you for the discriminant. And you just plug it in just like you do the quadratic formula. A is -1, B is 4, -4, and C is 3. So, b squared minus 4ac, that's 16, minus 4 times -1 times -3 is -12. What's 16 minus -12? It's minus a negative.
What's after the minus?
It's a 4, but in the middle of the board it kind of messes up real bad.
28.
28, very good. 28. That's the discriminant. The discriminant is simply the number under the radical in your quadratic formula. Now, 2 entire test questions tomorrow are all about the discriminant. The question simply says, what is the discriminant, and what does that tell you? That right there tells you something about your graph. And here's what it tells you, and I'm going to write it out verbatim in a second, but I'm going to show you first. If that's positive, then that means when you solve the problem, let's see, like this one, 900, it was a positive number. And what did that result in? That resulted in us having 2 roots. That means it's going to cross at 3 and -3. Well, that's not very good, but that's what that means. So, if it's positive, let me make a new slide real quick. You kind of need to write this down about discriminants. If your discriminant is positive, regardless of what number it is, it could be 1 billion, it could be 1/2, whatever. If it's positive, that means you're going to have 2 real roots. I think it also says rational roots on your test tomorrow, same difference.
What's the behavior and the vertex? Like
We've already done the
vertex-
behavior. That's what you did first. Up, up, down, down.
So it'd be negative.
Vertex we haven't done yet. We're going back to it. If it's positive, which ours was, it was 28, then that means you're going to have 2 real roots. Now what happens if it's negative? If you get a negative number, then you have 2 imaginary roots. If it's negative, you have 2 imaginary roots. There is one other scenario. What if, and I'm going to do this in a different color, what if you are working one of these problems and you get to, and you say it comes down to 4 plus or minus, no, oops, well, whatever. Let's say your discriminant is 0. Let's think about that for a second. If your discriminant is 0, what's going to happen? What's 4 plus 0?
4.
What's 4 minus 0?
4.
That's right. It's going to cause you to get the same root twice. So if your discriminant is 0, then you're going to have 1 real root. Those are the only 3 possibilities. And there are 2 test questions tomorrow that just say that. They say, what is your discriminant and what does that mean? So you'll find out what it is. In our case, it was 28. You're like, oh, it's positive. That's 2 real roots. Or negative, it's 2 imaginary roots. It's multiple choice too, so. Or 0, which means you have 1 real root.
So what was the line?
The y-intercept is just a number without a letter on it. Which number was this? We were working on this one, so that would be 3 in this case. No letter. The only thing I have left to show you is the vertex. Now, you don't bother getting one now. When you come back from lunch, everyone wants a graphing calculator on this test. A graphing calculator will give you like 6 of the 10 questions on this test. Like you don't even have to know how to read it. Yes.
So when you're done with the problem, will you give a number answer or will your answer be that graph?
For the discriminant, the thing we just did,
Just a question that's going to be on the test. What answer are we going to give?
well, there's lots of types of questions. But for the questions that I was just referring to, where it says the discriminant, no, the answer is going to be 28, comma, 2 real roots. Because you'll see that it is positive 28, and therefore that means 2 real roots. That's what the answer is.
Go back
So
to
if it's
that one
positive, it's going to have 2 real roots, and if not, it's going to have 2 imaginary.
Or if it's 0, it'll have 1 real root. Yeah. So like a sample A through D right here, for this problem, A, negative 47, 2 imaginary roots. B, negative 10, 2 real roots, which of course doesn't even make sense, because negative and real.
So how did you graph that thing?
Oh, you don't have to graph it right now.
Oh.
We're going to get to that in a second. But that wasn't even a very accurate graph. In fact, it should have been going downward because it was negative. I was just showing you that that 3 and negative 3 from that problem earlier,
Yeah.
that represented crossing the axis at those points.
Yeah.
That's all I was doing.
Oh.
Did you get this, Q? Okay. Now, the last thing, the only thing we have left, is the vertex. Now, before I erase this, I'm glad you brought up that graph, Nick. Every parabola, and by the way, these U-shapes are called parabolas, regardless of which way they're going. Every parabola has a vertex. That's a point at the bottom, or if it's an upward parabola, it's going to have a top. Every parabola has a vertex, which just means a top or a bottom. Here's how you find it. It's very, very simple. A vertex is given by this formula. Negative b over 2a. Now a vertex is a coordinate, and that's only going to give you one number. That'll give you the x, and I'll show you a very, very, very easy way to find the y. Well, although technically all you have to do is plug it back in, but still. So, just like the quadratic formula, what's our b value in this problem?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. So, negative 4, which would be
Positive.
positive 4, over 2a,
Negative 2.
negative 2. Now, that's only half of the coordinate for your vertex. That's the x value. Now, on a test, first thing you would do, go look at the answers. Do any of them have negative 2 as an x value? If they do, and that's the only one, you're done. But, if there's 2 with a negative 2x value, here's how you find the y. And this is why you want to grab a calculator after lunch.
And the negative 1 is from negative b squared, right? 'Cause it's not
That's right.
negative.
That's
Where'd you
exactly
get 4?
right. It was negative b, and our b is negative 4. So negative 4. Now, watch how awesome these calculators are with this kind of problem. I'm going to graph this problem. Negative x squared minus 4x plus 3 graph. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to say this again later today. I'm sorry for the redundancy. Four test questions tomorrow are going to be sketch the graph. I'll even show you before you leave the exact answers from tomorrow's test. I won't tell you which one's correct. I won't let you see the problem, but I'm going to show you all the answers. They all look different. If you can just graph it, you can eyeball which one's the correct one in tomorrow's test when it says graph them. Just graph it yourself, and whichever one looks like that, that's going to be the answer. And I'll show you, there aren't two that look like identical to each other. There's not.
So we can use that tomorrow to answer the question. We can just click the graph and then draw it.
Yeah. However, the stuff that doesn't ask for a graph, like where it asks for the vertex, you are going to need to know how to do some of the math, like this. Now, we found the x value, what was it, negative 2? And you can see, at negative 2, sure enough, that's the vertex. But we need to know the y value. The calculator will tell you any value that you want. Just hit trace, and say, hey, calculator, at trace, what was negative 2? What's the y value at negative 2? Well, thank you for asking, Brian. The y value is 7. And it'll tell you, your other coordinate, go away, is 7. you can just trace the x value that you got, and it'll give you the y value.
Wait, how do you get to that on your calculator?
You graph it, y equals, plug it in, graph, and then just hit trace and plug in whatever your was.
So what did you type in to get that, to make that graph? What numbers did you type in?
I plug this in. Negative x squared minus 4x plus 3. I hit graph. There it was.
Do I have x's on the calculator?
Right
I
under
might
my
need a, I might need a run on the calculator.
Yeah, I think so. Grab one after
So-
lunch.
Alright.
Where'd you get -2?
In the denominator? Oh, you mean this?
Yeah.
So you get where this, that's the formula, right?
Yeah.
Negative b over 2 times a. 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2.
What'd you click on first, Y?
Y equals, plug in your function, and then you can trace any point that you want. Let's say I wanted to know, hey, what's the y value at x equals 3? Well, thank you for asking, Brian. It's negative 18. It'll tell you any point that you want. All you have to give it is an x value. Not that we need that point, but in case you wanted it.
Alright, what do you click on to get there?
Trace. Trace. Then you'll have to plug in whatever value you want. So that's all 4 pieces. The y-intercept, the end behavior, the vertex, and the discriminant, which was 28, 2 real roots on this problem. Seems like a lot, but it's a bunch of little bitty quick things. Okay. Let's look at one more, and then we'll go to lunch. And we'll talk about the graphs after lunch, but you're going to love how simple those are. All right, number 3. What's the first step to all these problems?
Hey, let me do it.
Come on
You
up here.
gotta plug it into the negative b. Oh, I can come up here and do it?
Sure.
I gotta look at my paper.
Before you do negative b, what is the first step to all these
Get them
problems?
all on the same side.
Do that.
So, you'd have to add to them, wouldn't you?
That's right. Just do plus 2n. Now, the easiest way to do this, write them over here too, directly underneath their counterpart. So write that one there, put the other one there.
So it'd be negative 2 or positive 2 then?
Positive, plus 2n. Because it was negative, now it's positive.
Yeah.
So now add straight down,
So what is that? Negative 7 plus 4 would be 3, wouldn't it?
negative 3. N squared.
Is this like yesterday when we had a radical?
Negative 6 plus 2,
Plus 2.
that would be negative 4. What?
Is this like yesterday and we have a radical?
Nope, you're not even going to have a radical.
Wait, which one's negative 4? This one?
No.
No.
What are we talking about?
Right here.
That's a mod. 6.
Negative 6
Oh, it's a
plus
negative.
2 is negative
Yeah.
4.
Negative.
N, don't put your N. And then, do we add anything to this?
No.
So just minus 4. Now, you're ready.
A, B, C, right?
Yes. Now let's go straight down. What's it ask for first?
Find the vertex.
That's part A?
Wait, find the discriminant of each quadratic equation and state the number in
Discriminant. Go.
Discriminant.
Alright. I'll sweeten the deal. When you're done with this problem, we'll go to lunch. Period.
So it's a negative B one, right? That's negative B. That's all I heard.
Yep. You only need the part under the radical. Just the b squared minus 4ac.
So,
Take your time, Vic.
let me write this.
That's right.
So, negative 4 squared.
Yep.
I'm so confused.
On what?
What are we doing?
He's finding the discriminant. And all you need for the discriminant is...
Somebody type this in and
What's
check
under
it
the radical?
That's right. Which was just b squared minus 4ac. You don't actually need the radical. Just what's going under there.
I'll put it in the calculator if you quit doing that.
We're doing what?
I wasn't even doing it. What are you talking about?
Dance there.
I don't know what this is.
So,
Well, somebody needs to help you. I guess I don't want to go to lunch.
I guess y'all don't know.
so is it negative 4
64.
squared minus 4
Negative.
times negative 3? and then-
That's right. That's right.
Negative 64 over 2A.
Nope, you don't even have to do
So
that.
that's it.
hold on, let me make sure that's right. 16 minus, yeah, that should be about right. So, hold on, that's the discriminant. What does that tell us?
It has
It's gonna be down. It's gonna be imaginary. It's gonna be
Two
imaginary.
imaginary roots. If your
Yeah.
discriminant is negative. All right, B, go.
B. Find the vertex.
After you get through B, C, and D are like boom, boom.
All right, B. Find the vertex.
How do you do
Keep on
that?
getting negative 32.
That's negative B over 2A.
How do you do the vertex again?
Negative B over 2A.
Negative.
So is B -4?
Yes, yes it is. Well, B is -4. Negative B is going to be, that's right.
So
So
positive.
that'd be -4.
That's right, that's right.
All right, somebody do this. +4 divided by 2 parentheses -4. What is that? -2?
It's 1 over -2. Now, I'm gonna do you a favor and save you a spot here. Back up for a second. Is this complete? You need a whole coordinate for the vertex. The vertex is a coordinate where your parabola is going to break. What is this? Is this the x or the y?
The X.
How would you find the y? Just tell me and we'll go on.
You
Type it in and hit
trace.
and then you'd punch -1/2 and it would give you the y. All right, what's next? C.
Find the end behavior.
So just give me one of these. Is it up or down? Why is it down? Who can tell me?
Negative.
All right, next.
Y-intercept.
What is it?
You gotta type it down the calculator.
No, you don't. Just look at your function.
-4.
How do you know? Because Taylor told you. How do you know?
It's right there.
Back up. Nope. Nope.
Because it's by itself.
Don't have a variable.
Oh yeah.
It's the number without a variable.
Yeah, it's right
That
there. Yeah.
is your, well, no, because here's the problem. You may have had to add something to this later. You need to look at once you've solved
Yeah, but
it,
that's good.
as it turns out. Yes. Good luck. Now, I told you before lunch that you can do most of the stuff on the calculator. The most recent thing we did was find the vertex. Now, the last 6 problems, especially the 3 on the left that you have to do, they ask you to graph. Now, graphing these, it just says sketch. They don't have to be perfect. Let me show you. Just kidding, it's frozen. Let me show you. These are the exact graphs for tomorrow's quiz. I'm not showing you the problems, but in each column, that's A, B, C, and D for a given problem. All of them have something very different so that you should be able to point out like that on a graph. For instance, look at this first column. You may think these two look exactly alike, but if you look closely, that one's to the right of the y-axis, this one's to the left of the y-axis, something you should be able to notice in half a second if you were looking at it on a graph. All this is to say, today on the bottom part of your paper it says sketch the graph. We are literally going to sketch the graph. It's not going to be perfect at all. We're just going to look at it, we're going to sketch it. It's going to take like 5 seconds. I'm really more interested in that you can find the vertex and things like that using the calculator. Yes?
So how do you know which side of the y-axis?
Because it shows it right here. Y-axis on the left, y-axis on the right.
I know that, but like, how are you going to know like which
That's a
side
good question.
is really on?
So like, let's look at the one we just graphed, for instance. Now remember, if you have a calculator question tomorrow, that's something I can help you with. I can't help you punch stuff in, but I can help you like with the minute button pushing.
So is tomorrow one of those 5-minute tests?
No, tomorrow's a full
We
test.
have plenty of time?
For real?
Now, like this one. This one is aimed down. It's to the left of the y-axis. That's what you were asking about, right? Taylor?
Yep.
To the left of the y-axis. I mean, you can look at it and pretty much tell.
Oh, so your calculator's going to tell you which side of the y-axis it's on.
Now, let's say you get there tomorrow and your calculator is showing you some crazy window. By the end of the year, you're going to need to know how to fix that yourself. But I can help you with that kind of thing tomorrow. If you're like, hey, I'm hitting graph and it's not showing me anything, I can help you with that kind of stuff. So if you look, I mean, I'll be happy to point out, look in each column. In each individual column, is there 2 answers that you're like, I don't see a difference in those 2. How am I going to know which one that is? There is. Raise your hand, and I can tell you. Sir. Which one is it?
You said raise your hand.
If you have 2 in particular that look a lot alike. B on C and which one? I'm asking, like, here are your options for tomorrow. And I'm trying to show you that just by grabbing on the calculator, you should be able to ID which one it is. And I'm saying, are there, and these are the options per question. Are there any two pictures in the same column that you're like, I don't see the difference in those two, that you're afraid might trip you up tomorrow? No? Well, then let's just quickly do number maybe 5 and 7, and then I'll cut you loose. No point in doing all three of those. It's just a waste of time. All right. Number 5. Number 5. Oh, there it is. Let's see. So, turn on your calculator. Y equals. If there's anything there, clear it out. We need to punch in that formula. So, -2. Dang it. I'll go over here and do it. Y equals -2 x squared plus 12.
Push on the,
What?
I don't know how to work that.
Same as this one. Turn it on.
We just typed this problem.
Y equals, top left button, and start typing in the equation. The x is right under the mode button.
So we just type it in y1.
Yes.
So
How
y
do
equals
you get to that?
-2x and all that.
Yeah.
How do we get to that?
What do you do after
Windows?
you type it in?
Y equal.
Oh.
Y equals.
Graph.
Then hit graph when you get it all
Oh,
in.
what if it's zoomed in there?
Does somebody have any calculator question I can assist with?
Yeah, I do. Well, see, my calculator's
After we
no,
Graph.
wow. You cannot see it.
Hit zoom 6.
Is this right?
Does it look like mine? Yes, it's right.
Zoom 6 didn't help nothing.
I need to get it to zoom in.
You gotta click graph.
Click graph when you type it in. Young boy.
That's because you punched into the wrong. You didn't square the first x. What's the problem?
Which calculator?
Oh, drive. Make it negative.
Well, I mean, I already went up there. That's the only one that worked.
Well, just share with someone today. Maybe I'll dig up a few extras for tomorrow. Okay, so to sketch these, I'm just going to give myself an axis, and I literally just want you to sketch them. They don't have to be perfect. I see that it crosses about here and here, crosses somewhere down here.
So all we gotta do on these is draw it.
Now, hold on a second. Theoretically, we could get these pretty accurate if we wanted to take the time. We know how to find exactly where they cross by doing the quadratic equation. We know how to find the exact y-intercept. We know how to find the exact vertex. That's what we've been doing in the first few problems. But my point is, for tomorrow, since you're going to be able to identify them all just by looking at the graph anyway, then just give me a rough sketch and that'll be good enough. So I'll tell you what. I want you to do 5 through 10, all of them, but I will do any other one that you want to see. 5 through 10, we just did 5. Look through the rest of them. Is there a particular one you think looks harder
All
than
we
the
do
other?
is just draw the graph.
Can we get in our group?
Yeah, hold on, not yet.
7.
All right, 7 was the only thing I heard, so that's what we're going to do. Number 7.
Hey, I'm gonna need help on 9 and 10 too. I don't know about them.
They just look different. Actually, let me just do 9. Number 9. You just punch them in. I mean, they're the same exact thing. Clear it out.
Get in that way?
Yes, negative, parentheses, x plus 4, close parentheses,
So just call it how you see it.
exactly, squared, minus 1, graph.
That's number 9.
Just out of curiosity, here's a higher order thinking question. If I were to find the discriminant of that, what would it be? You remember? If it doesn't actually cross, that means our discriminant is what? Am I remembering?
0.
Negative. If it was 0, it means it would touch in exactly 1 point. If it's negative, it means it never crosses and thus gives you imaginary roots. So anyway,
What-
sketching this,
What'd you do, L?
there you go.
What about 7 and 8 when they're not all on the other side? They're not on the right side.
What's this?
7 and 8 they are. F of x, we dealt with that earlier this year. F of x and y are the same exact thing. Doesn't change anything.
So
it
they're
just
you
makes
just type
Y
it in that way?
equals-
Yep. F of x just means y.
Oh.
So I need you to graph those and do numbers 2 and 4 now, please. These are due before you go because it shouldn't take that long.